This is Timothy Snyder. Greetings. I'm speaking about my book On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. This is a book that I wrote in late 2016 to try to prepare Americans and others for what was to come in the late 2010s. It's a book of 20 lessons for individual and civic action. In the last 5 years, this book, I think, has been of use to some people, to my surprise, not just Americans, but people around the world. I've had occasion to revisit this book because I've updated it and am publishing it again in a new and I think in a much better form, illustrated by the fantastic graphic artist Nora Krug. So as I've been working through On Tyranny again with Nora, I've been thinking again about the lessons. I'm making these 20 videos as a way to speak about how these lessons, I think, have been useful in the last few years and how they might remain useful in years to come. Today we're up to lesson number 16 from On Tyranny, which is learn from peers in other countries. I'm going to read the lesson and then make a few remarks. Learn from peers in other countries. Keep up your friendships abroad or make new friends in other countries. The present difficulties in the United States are an element of a larger trend, and no country is going to find a solution by itself. Make sure you and your family have passports. So I'm an American and I'm a historian, but I'm not an American historian. I'm a historian of other parts of the world, and I've spent a good deal of my life in other parts of the world. That was of great help to me in writing the book. A lot of the things that seem commonsensical to me in the book, and which I think might have proved useful to Americans from the book, I learned from former political prisoners, dissidents, oppositionists in other countries. And this, in a way, is where the whole book comes from. I'm an American. I care about my country. I think I do have a sense of what's exceptional about it. But exceptionalism, the idea that your country is always and in everything exceptional, the idea that your country is always and in everything better than other countries, the idea that your country, for example, is automatically a democracy no matter what happens, that idea is doom. And that idea almost doomed us. It was that idea, or my opposition to that idea, that motivated me to write this book in the first place. I felt very powerfully in the year 2016, when I first wrote this book, that what I was seeing in the US was familiar precisely because I'd seen it in other countries. I'd seen similar things in Ukraine. I'd seen similar things in Russia. I'd seen similar things in history. And I was very worried by the American tendency, the American exceptionalist tendency to say, our institutions will protect us. This was a terrible mistake because, of course, institutions, whether they're ours or not, are only as good as we are. They only hold up when we prop them up. They only stand for us when we stand for them. And so the very idea that our institutions will protect us was a way of stepping back and relying upon precisely American exceptionalism. But American exceptionalism isn't something you can rely on. If it exists at all, it exists only in the individual exceptional behavior of individual exceptional Americans. We can see the same thing a bit now, too, with the hopes that people place in our Constitution. I like the Constitution, too. I have a romantic attachment to the Constitution as well. But the idea that the Constitution on its own is going to protect us in the 2020s is just not true. The idea that the Constitution alone is going to protect American democracy, is going to create an American right to vote, that's just not true. The ideas in the Constitution, the ways that the Constitution is interpreted, even what the very words in the Constitution mean and which ones we choose to emphasize, that depends upon us. That the Constitution has to do with rights, for example, is an idea that has to come from us. The idea that the Constitution involves a right to vote is not something which is necessarily clear in the minds of a lot of people who are interpreting the Constitution. That has to come from us. And that is, of course, one of the things that we can learn from other countries. Democracy, interestingly, really is popular among people and really is unpopular among oligarchs. And a lot of we see around the world a lot of the things we see around the world are just as simple as that. One of the things we can learn from other countries, from people who have behaved more courageously often than we have in places like Slovakia or Belarus, is that people really do care about voting, that people who have had harsher experiences than Americans have, people whose lives have been further down the line towards authoritarianism, realize just how important a vote is. That's something that we can learn from our own history, of course, but it's also something we can learn from other countries. But there's one more thing I wanted to say about this. Dropping the American exceptionalism is liberating. When you are living in a world of American exceptionalism, you're expecting someone else to take care of things for you. That's not freedom. Expecting that America is going to take care of things for you is un-American. There is no America out there that can take care of things for you. America only exists insofar as Americans take care of things for themselves. There is no beautiful, perfect America that exists beyond the things that we say and we think, and above all, the things that we do. So in this sense, if you really want to be a free person, if you really want to be a free American, you have to drop the American exceptionalism. You have to drop that right away, and you have to realize we are all in this together. Democracy is rising or falling around the world. The lessons that we can learn are common. And the moment that we're capable of learning from other people, we actually become more free ourselves. That's what I meant by lesson 16. Thank you.